A law banning TikTok, unless its Chinese parent company sells the app, is set to take effect 2 days from now, but it remains unclear if and when that ban will be enforced. Today, the Supreme Court upheld the law, rejecting the company's argument that it violates free speech. In a unanimous opinion, the justices wrote, quote, TikTok's scale and susceptibility to foreign adversary control, together with the vast swaths of sensitive data the platform collects, justify differential treatment to address the government's national security concerns. Now, even though the law takes effect Sunday, while President Biden is still in the Oval Office, his administration said today that it will leave the implementation of the law to the incoming Trump administration. The law would impose billions of dollars in fines against tech companies if they allow access to the app. President-elect Trump responded on social media saying he would review the law and make a decision about TikTok in the not-too-distant future. NBC News' Savannah Sellers, who broke the news during our show yesterday that the Biden administration won't enforce a ban on TikTok, joins me now. And also with us is NBC News senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett. Thanks so much to both of you for being here. Savannah, let me start with you because I know you have been all over this. What happens now that the Supreme Court has upheld the ban?
Yeah, Kristen, it is a very, very good question. So for people who are wondering, what is TikTok going to look like on Sunday? We are trying to answer that question for you. And the reason that we don't have an exact answer is because TikTok does not know yet what TikTok is going to look like on Sunday. I know Laura's going to touch on this and she can handle some of the legal concerns that what's known as service providers would have here. But what is going on inside TikTok is conversations with companies like Apple, like Google, like Oracle. That's what's defined as a service provider or an app store or an internet hosting service. Of course, those are the places that have the app available for download. They're also the places hosting the data for TikTok. Are those companies going to feel that they have enough protection based on what we've heard from the Justice Department and from the Biden administration today that was quite vague and I assume purposefully vague, Kristen, to essentially say we are not going to implement, but not expand on exactly what that looks like. Can these companies for sure continue offering those internet, those data services to TikTok and not get hit with these fines in the billions of dollars as the law is written? That's a big question right now. TikTok has said their absolute last resort would be going dark. It seems like that is not an option that they will have to exercise if Biden is saying day one, we are not going to collect fines. And if the Trump administration has made clear they do plan to save TikTok. So there's a very good chance, actually, Kristen, on Monday, TikTok looks exactly the same. They're working out those details right now.
Well, it'll be fascinating to see. Laura, with that, let me turn to you. Pick up on that point that Savannah makes. What does happen to these service providers like Apple, like Google, while they wait to see what happens? Right now, the Biden administration saying we're not enforcing those fines. The Trump administration hasn't really weighed in yet. What are you watching for?
Well, while the ban is in effect, that's the real crux of the problem for them, Kristen, because the federal law can't just be undone with a stroke of the pen, even if President Biden wishes it wasn't so, and even if the incoming president-elect decides he wants to so-called save it. It's on the books, and the Supreme Court, the highest court, has now upheld it. And so the app may look the same on Sunday, but there's technically a violation. And so that's why for the companies, it's still a risky proposition because this is a sort of political wind change that's happening right now as opposed to a legal actual change, because the law now is clear that they can ban this app unless there's a sale. And there appears to be no divestiture on the horizon, Kristen.
Laura, it's interesting the language from the high court today, writing TikTok's scale and susceptibility to foreign adversary control, together with the vast swaths of sensitive data the platform collects, justify differential treatment to justify the government's national security concerns. What did you make of what the court decided here?
They're very, very clear because they're looking at the record that they have before them and the fact that this was passed in bipartisan fashion, which is rare in Washington because the national security concerns, at least we thought, and at least we were told, were so grave. The idea of this mass collection by a foreign adversary that can be used to harm Americans, that it can be used to be spying on them, the things that we hold in our pockets every day, seem like so significant that the court was moved by that. Yet the Biden administration and the incoming Trump administration have suddenly changed their tune, and that's why it's such a confounding thing. If the national security concerns were so grave, how come they're now changed?
Well, pick up on that point for us, Savannah, because what message does it send to China? What message does it send to TikTok to essentially issue this warning and then, at least in the near term, back away from it?
I mean, exactly what Laura just said, Kristen. We thought that you said the national security concerns were so grave, and that is what is just so astounding, really, about this. I would say, especially on the Biden administration's part, is that nothing has changed. You know, it's not like there was some new briefing where they learned information where they said, hey, China's actually not a threat. We're not concerned about what they could be doing with their ties to TikTok. That did not happen. And so if that didn't happen, what changed? It was also written explicitly in the law that Sunday was the day that this was to go into effect. There was a specific number of days. We've been basically counting it down this entire time. And now the Biden administration is saying, oh, hey, it's a holiday weekend. Oh, hey, there's an inauguration. Those things have also been on the calendar, Kristen. And so it sort of looks like this political football of I don't want to be the person who is going to ban TikTok and upset 170 million American users. And I would imagine, of course, I'm not speaking directly with anybody who can for sure say what China makes of that. But I imagine if there had been any concern that was grave enough, if there was something behind closed doors that lawmakers saw that there is this connection to China, as it stands right now, that connection continues. Nothing has changed.
Yeah, it sure does. Laura, just looking ahead a little bit, other companies are probably watching this very closely. Could today's Supreme Court decision apply to other companies, or was it just narrowly targeted to TikTok?
No, this applies to any foreign adversary. And so to the extent that there are other apps out there that are also have significant Chinese-controlled interests in the same way as ByteDance, those two would be covered by the law. And so as Savannah has been reporting, a lot of users in sort of this protest were flocking to other apps that are similarly controlled by China. Those two, again, would be smacked down under this law, but it all comes down to enforcement, right? We think about lots of laws every day in this country. Think about jaywalking, right? Those are laws on the books that aren't enforced. And so it's going to come down to whether the Trump Justice Department really wants to take this head on, guys.
All right. Well, a busy weekend as we track all the twists and turns in this. Savannah Sellers, Laura Jarrett, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate your insights and your reporting into this story.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.